And he actually said, sure, what do you have for me? So I gave him a position statement that basically said, using SB 507 as an example, midwives are in trouble. And it opened the door. He actually titled the email, "Hey, Bobby, look at this." So Secretary Kennedy answered that email, and I was invited out to DC to speak to members of HHS.
This is the Earthbound Parenting Podcast, where we discuss all things pregnancy, birth, postpartum, partnership, parenting, and how to take radical responsibility for each one. Being earthbound is a wild adventure, so allow me to be your guide. I'm your hostess, Chaya Schwal, traditionally trained birth guardian, birth educator, and mother of 4 unassisted home-birthed boys. In today's episode, I have the immense pleasure of speaking with Abby Iovine, Abigail Iovine. She is Cardinal Birth Midwifery. She is the midwife on Capitol Hill, doing amazing things for midwives in this country, families in this country, babies in this country. She's doing amazing, incredible, historical work. And I get to talk to her all about it. I get to share that conversation with you. So let's get into it. Abby Iovine is a mother of 10, apprenticeship-trained traditional midwife, and the founder of the National Alliance for Traditional Birth Rights. Super exciting. Practicing in Pennsylvania, she established Cardinal Birth Midwifery as a family-centered, client-autonomous ministry model that honors informed consent and physiological birth. Totally vibe with that. She has been an outspoken advocate for birth consumer rights and medical freedom for over a decade. Through both grassroots work and federal engagement, Abby is committed to protecting traditional midwifery and defending the rights of families to lead their own birth experiences. Welcome, Abby. Thanks again for hopping on with me so I could capture your genius and share it with my audience. So, yeah, so welcome. This is the Earthbound Parenting Podcast. And I would love to just dive in, starting with you founding the National Alliance for Traditional Birth Rights, which I'm keeping a very close watch on because I am very excited about what you're doing there. But what is the core mission behind this federal initiative to protect traditional midwifery? Why is it urgently needed right now? And if you don't mind sharing a brief version of how you even got into all of that, because I know it was very rapid fire exciting when you were called to DC and all of that. So how did all of that happen? What's the core mission?
So the core mission, just briefly, and I can go deeper into that as we talk more. The core mission is really protecting traditional midwifery as a heritage. And the right to choose traditional midwifery care and birth freedom, essentially. That's the core mission, to get every state to recognize birth freedom, to get the federal government to recognize birth freedom. But this started because I found a bill in Pennsylvania that was very similar to the bill in New York that essentially eradicated traditional midwifery and all the options. And it exploded and turned into this thing. So I put together the NATBR just because the name is quirky. It looks like the word natural birth, and I needed something foundational, and everything just kind of fell in place on top of this. So I had put together this random position statement, and I was thinking, how do I get this to federal people? As I was working on the Pennsylvania bill, we had the opportunity to speak to a ton of Amish leaders, and we had some constitutional attorneys come out and do that with us. After that happened, I was brainstorming, how do we go further with this? Pennsylvania is one thing, but there has to be more to this. So I had asked a friend who is friends with Secretary Kennedy, if he would just do me a favor, and it was a joke. It initially started out as I'm not really seriously there yet. He was helping me with this Pennsylvania initiative a little bit here and there. And he actually said, sure, what do you have for me? So I gave him a position statement that basically said, using SB 507 as an example, midwives are in trouble. And it opened the door. He actually titled the email, "Hey, Bobby, look at this." So Secretary Kennedy answered that email, and I was invited out to DC to speak to members of HHS. I did not get to meet him. Totally fangirl, but did not get to meet him. That's okay. I was introduced to his son in a coffee shop, totally at random. It felt like a really special day, right?
Wow.
So I sat at this table, and they put my chair in the middle, and I'm thinking like these are going to be bureaucratic talking heads completely, right? And they were not.
No.
They were real people who probably, like we did, grew up watching all of this stuff go south, all of these parental rights, freedoms, birth freedoms, health freedoms, vaccine, all of it, except they steered themselves in the direction of politics, and this is what they were doing. They were not crossing their arms. They were not asking intentionally difficult questions. They were on point with everything, and it was an open, genuine conversation. They were asking me things like, how do we get research if we know that all the research is paid and all I can find is research on the hospital birth and just stuff that I thought I was going to have to over explain. They wanted to hear about the biblical principles of midwifery in Exodus. They wanted to hear about what midwifery care does for postpartum depression long term. They wanted to hear all sorts of things that I thought I was going to have to introduce, and they already knew.
Wow.
So I know it was so powerful. And it was a very light and easy conversation. It wasn't frightening at all. They treated me like they really wanted to know, Dr. Dorothy Fink sat right next to me and just batted her eyelashes at the idea of what midwifery care could do for this country. She had so many brilliant, beautiful questions about women and health. And I loved every second of it, which is not what I was expecting. I was expecting to have to defend myself, So we left the meeting, and Admiral Brian Christine, who is, He's a physician, but so for now he is the assistant to Secretary Kennedy, that office. He asked me if I could have Secretary Kennedy make any announcement, because in the discussion we were saying, the criminalization of midwifery has led to quiet midwives. Nobody's going to come out and speak. Nobody's going to come out and testify. I would need a public sentiment. We need something stated really clear. And he said, well, what would you have Secretary Kennedy say if it was anything? And I pointed to my sweatshirt that said protect traditional midwifery. And he said, well, that's great. So just as a light and gentle conversation. And then we talked as we walked in the freezing cold together about small things, but they're big things to midwives, right? Small things like, how midwifery care could change the sexual dysfunction that women experience because of the way that they have hospital births. Like their minds were on this. Wow. I didn't even have to introduce these concepts to them. They didn't. I don't think they understood the depth of the criminalization of the midwife. I think that was a little bit appalling for them to know. Like I don't think they recognize that there's women in jail just for practicing midwifery. Like when I told them about the Cardinal, they know if you think about it. I don't know if they thought that far into the regulatory framework in each individual state that we are being investigated for practicing midwifery. So after I left the meeting, I created a panel of, I call them, they're volunteers. I call them an advisory panel. HHS and I say HHS, so that was Dr. Dorothy Fink, Admiral Brian Christine, Bridget Devoy, which is the attorney for that office, and a few other people. And there were some people on a Zoom on the computer that I didn't catch their names. I don't know who was watching this meeting. We plan to reconvene when I have more for them. They wanted data that was so important to them, to have data that shows that they have something to stand on, that midwifery care has excellent outcomes. There is so much data, but after we left, I was able to put together this incredible group. It is voluntary. And it has, for example, the NACPM, the AABC. It has Dr. Stu, some other physicians, physicians from Johns Hopkins, attorneys, a bunch of people that their main job is in the support of protecting traditional midwifery and understanding what that framework would do for all midwifery and all maternal health outcomes. Their support role is where we meet each week and we discuss data. We discuss moving forward with HHS, which is the next step is a maternal symposium. We're discussing Religious Liberties Commission submissions, and press releases, and we meet each week so that we have a very broad and very safe group of people who are really giving us excellent data. And it's all the midwives, the birth center owners, the CPMs, the lay midwives, the physicians, and the lawyers. So we put together a 23-page briefing packet for HHS, which is incredible. I would love to share it with you. Yeah, it's full of data and testimony, and probably like 20 recommendations for HHS to improve maternal health outcomes through protecting traditional midwifery, including, payments to birth centers, including informed consent models. It is so good. It's so good.
Amazing.
I know. And Secretary Kennedy answered that email himself and said, "Thank you, Abigail. We are here to support." Super exciting. So I absolutely am a fangirl over anybody who wants to make us eat healthy. All right.
Yeah.
Really. So the next step is waiting to hear what HHS wants from me next. We're going to send them another packet, and the MAHA vice president and I have a meeting on Wednesday to discuss collaborating with HHS for a maternal health symposium. So I'm hoping we can steer that in the direction of integrating midwifery care more wholly than whatever this silly stuff is that we call integrated midwifery care. So that's what I've done so far with HHS. It's very exciting. Just on a whim, I had a friend who was going to meet the governor and his wife recently at a convention, and she handed Joe Latipo, the Surgeon General of Florida, she handed him a brief that I wrote for Florida, just on a whim because I love Florida. And their birth status sucks. Florida ruined it for everybody, so Florida should go first. I sent him a birth freedom model language, and I actually rewrote, I proposed amendments to their law, and I got a text super early in the morning from this woman, and she said he loved it, and he wants to speak about it soon. So the Birth Freedom Initiative is the goal. Birth freedom, meaning you have the right to choose how you have your baby, where you have your baby, who helps you have your baby, whether they're credentialed or not, in every state. So the goal of the NATBR is to work on these federal initiatives. The Religious Liberties Commission hopefully will get some recognition in social services and healthcare and birth for religious liberties, because some of these people really, the framework is really awful for the way that their liberties are stripped from them when they make real religiously oriented decisions about blood products, about the vaccines, and then the goal is to help each state form their own coalition and do the same advancements. I'm working hard in Pennsylvania. It's a weird state. There's like maybe a spell over it or something. I don't know. Everybody's paid. That's what I think. Everybody's paid. But the goal of the NATBR is to introduce this framework of birth freedom into every state, federally recognized, and recognized as a constitutional right and a religious freedom.
Amazing. Yeah, that's when I can't even remember exactly how I caught wind of what you were doing, but I literally cried. I literally teared up and had just a full body like, oh my God, this is from God. This is a miracle.
Like
it's because I really don't think people understand I don't think people understand how deep this witch hunt goes, and what it has done to, I think, even families that aren't privy to the witch hunt and all of that. I think families just fall in line in a lot of ways that I don't think they're even conscious of, because of this this theme in our society, what this overall toe the line, don't get in trouble, they'll take your kids away, or all this crazy stuff. We don't even want to think about it. We want to keep it far from our mind, I think, because it's too painful to think about. And so people just have stayed in their lane for so long. And for those of us who are in the birth world, and not just in the birth world, but those of us who are maybe not so mainstream, not necessarily in the mainstream midwifery lanes,
Yeah.
and families who would prefer to have an alternative kind of birth at their home and that sort of thing. Those people, I think, do have definitely a better idea of like how deep this goes and how important, how vitally important this work is that you're doing. But I think a lot of families that would choose home birth, just like it's just not on their radar by any degree. I here in Montana, I've been sort of starting to wave the flag a little bit more about what we are afforded here by our own legislation, by our own Montana codes and that sort of thing. And even people that I would say are definitely more like sovereign parenting minded and prefer to be out of the system and families like that, even they weren't aware of the limitations of our code and even the codes that we do have that protect their parental rights. And so all of that to say, the work that you're doing, just that jumping off point, that the adventures that you've been on just in these last, because this has only been a few months. I know you've been
It
doing
has,
work
yeah.
in Pennsylvania, but yeah, this whole federal journey has just been.
Started at the end of December. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say it. I don't think it's even been really more than 2 months because yeah, it's
Hmm.
only been a handful of weeks. I mean, it's so new and so promising already, and yeah, I think as more is developed in the work that you're doing, and God willing, these efforts start to echo throughout each state, I think it will become more evident to the common home birthing family,
Yeah.
uh, just how much this is going to change things and change them for the better. Because I'm definitely somebody who is the more the merrier, the more options we have, the better it is. I'm not somebody who's like everybody screw the system, burn down all the hospitals. No, I'm
Yeah.
not that way at all. But what I am really passionate about is making sure that people have options and not feeling like they're having to birth their babies in a trap, in a whole system that they can't get out of and all of that. And I think that what you're doing what you're doing is a huge step towards creating those opportunities for options and a way out of the single path lane
Yeah.
monopoly that we've got going on right now. So
Yeah. And when you strip,
amazing.
if we remove that monopoly, and so let's say that traditional midwifery is recognized federally, they start to make small changes. Some of the really cool things I've discovered that would happen would be that if, let's say, in traditional midwifery is recognized, the right to choose out of hospital care is recognized, the informed consent structures in the hospital setting would change because it would begin to normalize different choices that people are making. Informed refusals would become more normalized. It would change the way that informed consent and refusal actually had to work in the hospitals. Right now, because we have this monopolization effect happening, we almost have like entire areas that are adhered to the same protocols and the same hospital standards. But that's what happens when you monopolize one area with one or two hospital systems. But if we started to open the door, so to speak, and it was accepted across the board, and it had to be accepted in the institution that women have the right to refuse certain standards, certain care, certain recommendations, that would change. It would have such a trickle down effect in terms of the informed consent that even women get in the hospital. No longer, eventually down the road, no longer would it be absolutely radical to decline a RhoGAM shot or a vitamin K shot, because it would be absolutely recognized that women have this informed right to make a refusal. So opening the door with traditional midwifery being the first thing that's recognized would change the dynamics of every single structure. It would change some of the freedoms that the C&Ms don't have. It would change the way the birth centers are able to get paid. It would change the way that the even mandated reporters have to report. You know what I mean? The trickle down effect is humongous. I don't even think I could put a pin on it. You know, I'm excited to see where else it could possibly go. You know, I was looking at some stats today and like doing number things, and I realized if we have 1 in 4 low risk women are going to have a cesarean, if even 40% of them chose midwifery care, we could have about 90,000 less cesareans in a year.
Wow.
The number's
Oh my gosh.
huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge number. That's a huge number. Right.
Wow.
And that's real integration. That's not integration like we modernized midwifery and now it's a hospital-based model. That's not what that is. That's out of hospital or community care. That's a lot of reduced cesarean rate. Like, right. That's a lot. And then everything that comes with that. Can you imagine? So I feel like, and again, I don't know how it turned into this. It's for me, it's a God thing because I don't do politics. This all started, was dropped into my lap, and I just continued to go with it, which includes paying for everything, meeting tons of people, putting myself and my time and creating the website, all the things. But every single time something comes up, it's almost like I just had to put my hands up and go, okay, what's next? And it works. Everything has happened. And then it's enlightening. All the right people are coming. I've met the craziest people. Like Dr. Tenpenny is in my thread on my phone. I don't know. I have the opportunity to be I know, dude, right? I have the opportunity to go on CHD TV. Like, I'm excited for what this is going to be. Like, people don't know. So awareness is really important right now.
Right.
That is the big picture, is awareness. People just think we have a maternal death rate. Midwives are legal in some states, but nobody is putting these pieces together, that there is a midwifery model kind of solution that fixes a lot of problems, a lot of problems. So I'm here for it.
Yeah. Getting daily exercise in is so valuable, yet can be so overwhelming for busy moms and busy life in general. Don't fret, BirthFit has your back. BirthFit provides fitness programs to enhance the adaptability and resilience of our neuromuscular systems through efficient, intentional movement and training for women in all seasons and cycles of life, specifically preconception, pregnancy, and healing postpartum. BirthFit and the women who created it are legit, and I'm excited to share with you 20% off any BirthFit program you purchase from their website when you use code HAYA. Support your body so your body can support you and this new phase of motherhood. Go check them out today. It really does. It really does feel like a miracle, and what you're describing there too is just confirming more and more to me that this is definitely something to keep an eye on and support. And I want to jump in, in whatever way I can, and that's partly why we're talking right now, because this is just something that I thought of that would help get the word out and capture this history in the making, is what it feels like, which is just phenomenal. I absolutely believe that God is a part of this, because there's been this, I mean, we know the witch hunts have been there. We know that the whole battle around licensure in this country anyway is 100 or ish years old, and maternity care and all of this stuff, nurse, midwives, blah, 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 the whole history, birth in the hospital and all the things that came with that is very, very new. But there has been this repeated pattern of, how do we get these people to fall in line? There's all kinds of things that we could point to: opportunists, predators, whatever it may be, people who really did believe that they were doing the right thing and just maybe a little misguided, any number of things. And it has caused this cycle of people kind of stepping out of line because they're trying to hang on to their traditions or their religious beliefs is I think a huge one, and or spiritual beliefs. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a religious belief. I know the circles that the midwifery circles that I occupy, there are a lot of just sort of generally spiritual people, but it doesn't mean that it's any less uh, serious and important and meaningful just because it's not some organized religion or whatever it is. I myself am religious, and I obviously see it from that angle. It doesn't matter across the board to people who are trying to create families and their own legacy with intention. Birth is obviously a massively important part of that. And the handcuffs that everybody has been put into when trying to make these decisions for their family, it's wild. It's wild to me. I'm trying to I kind of lost my train of thought because I went off on a tangent about how much this means. Let me try to collect my thoughts for a second because I think I was going somewhere with that. I got too
It's
excited.
hard, right? Because there's so much. There's so much.
There really is.
There's midwives sitting in jail. You
Yeah.
know, there's every single state is probably going to go under if we don't do something about it. You know,
Yes,
every day I
that's
hear
where
a new state, you know, is coming up with legislation.
yes.
And
Yes, sorry. Thank you. That was where I was heading with that. Is this cycle of people stepping out and then this new wave of persecution and hammering down on new laws or whatever it is, creating new legislation, new codes. Here in Montana, as far as I'm aware, we're the first state in the union to have mandatory doula licensure. That's brand new, and don't even get me started on that,
and
because that just boils my blood. But it's kind of out of nowhere. But what has it done for families? So anyway, we see this pattern. There's this pattern happening over and over and over again. And I feel like for the first time, I think a lot of people, honestly, in the birth world have sort of given up on this country as far as like instituting into the systems or relying on lawyers or legislators or whatever to help us. I think a lot of people have taken things into their own hands by exiting the system in various ways and just trying to make it work in, surviving out in the boonies, figuratively and literally. And I feel like, at least from my perspective, this is the first time where I have very real excitement, very real hope for that angle of bringing midwifery back to life, bringing it back into a place where everyone can sort of, eventually, it'll take time, but where everyone, like you were talking about, these politicians that are aware of these trickle down effects, these things like postpartum mental health and all these things. My own personal observations that I like to talk about a lot are how the birth experience affects the family unit, as in the parents, mom and dad, how they relate to each other and how they navigate their own partnership moving forward when things happen in the birth. Any number of things can happen, and they can either be prepared for it and then they go forward as a unit and as a team, and they're stronger and better for it, or things happen like stories we hear all the time, for example, of like dads in a hospital birth, dads that are sort of shoved aside, nobody educated him whatsoever, and he's completely shut down, like his nervous system is done for, and he shuts down. Things are happening to her that she has very little control over, and then later, as they're trying to pick up the pieces for what the hell that just was, their relationship suffers because now she has a subconscious distrust of him, and he's completely traumatized and has to put all of that together. And that happens so bloody often. And again, I feel like what could happen from this is that people who are, maybe they're choosing home birth like you, or a hospital birth, like you were saying, it would have this trickle down effect of how the whole thing, I'm finding really intelligent words to use right now, but how the whole thing really could affect even that family, even that
Yeah.
couple in that scenario, how she would know that her no actually means something in that space, and that they have options, and he knows that he can step in and say she said no, or he can advocate for her in ways that, in a lot of places, even well-educated couples are having to seriously fight the system, because it's, I say sometimes that it's a little bit like the mafia. You go to them for a loan or something, to a loan shark or something. You go to them asking for a favor and you've got nothing in return. It's kind of like that. You're trying to throw your weight around, advocating for yourself in a space where you've got nothing to give them.
Yeah. One of the
They've
things
got
that
all the
I
power.
hope, one of the things I hope we can pull off is that if we could change the scoring system with the Joint Commission. So the Joint Commission scores the hospitals. It's who you file complaints with. A lot of their funding. So think like mother baby initiative type hospitals, right? Their funding depends on their mother baby initiatives. If we can include informed consent in those required initiatives in order for them to be scored or accept or eligible for funding,
Yeah.
it would force them to change the way that they accept informed refusals in the hospital. All of that I actually put in the HHS packet. I can't wait for you to read it. But this is what I mean by the trickle-down effect. It would have so many small and large. I couldn't even put it into words, the way that this would branch off into different structures and affect the maternal health as a whole. It would affect maternal health as a whole. It would change so many things. I think about that woman who had we saw the video years ago. You probably remember. And there was like 5 or 6 hands on her newborn, rubbing her newborn. And she's going,
Oh my gosh, I
stop,
hate
stop,
that video.
stop. And
Yes.
I'm yelling. I'm like, it's not NRP. You don't have to stimulate the baby.
I was in the
Everybody.
comments on the, I was like, that baby's crying.
Everybody.
It doesn't. Yeah. Oh
Everybody.
my
They would
God.
not be allowed to do that anymore. They would not. They would
Ugh.
absolutely not be allowed, and of course those things would still slip through. We still have people who come in and they cut people without consent, but
Yeah.
you can't win every battle. We
Right.
can just try to change the way the system is structured. And this is the right time.
Yes.
This is absolutely the right time. This administration, this is a bipartisan issue. I don't even vote. So I don't want people to be like, well, Republicans and leftists and I don't care.
Yeah.
This is a none of those issues. This is everybody has babies. All women have babies.
Yeah.
This is an everybody issue. And I think everybody can get behind it. But now is definitely the time. This administration has pushed things through so fast with health freedom. So I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to see where it takes me. MAHA is helping me. I'm going to try to get CHD involved more. I have the opportunity to go on CHD TV. So right now, awareness is the big thing. We need a lot of awareness. And then the next step is the religious liberties hearing in March. So we'll see how that goes.
That's amazing.
I know. I'm so nervous and excited.
There are so many. There are so many things. Yeah, I am struggling a little bit with even staying remotely focused, because I'm partially
so
just
much.
Yes,
I know.
I know. So much. It's so big. It's so exciting. You're doing so many different things. You're going to all these important things and talking to all these important people, creating these important things for this effort. And I almost don't know where to go with it. Other than just fangirling about this whole thing. What is feeling like the most important? So you mentioned awareness, but what could somebody listening to this, what can they do in their space? Are what you're asking of us, someone like me, for example, are you asking us to support you along the way? obviously keep our eyes on what you're doing, but what else do you think we could do? We could be doing to like lay the groundwork for this in wherever we're at.
Yeah. I mean, everybody could form a small coalition in their own state. I am all about helping people interpret and understand their laws. All of this actually started because I was investigated numerous times, not for outcomes, just
Yeah.
because that's what happens in a state like Pennsylvania. And I started getting really good at reading the law, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. So people were coming to me saying, I don't know if you know how bad people are at writing their contracts. A lot of us were not really taught how to effectively write contracts that keep us safe.
Yeah.
So I really started digging deep into the contracts and the law. So I forget where I was going with this part. Anyway,
I think we were talking about starting coalitions.
yeah, so everybody can start coalitions in their own state. I'm happy to help individuals in each state understand how to frame and what the framework would look like, how to find the right people to talk to. I think signing the petition, becoming a member. So memberships were, $10 a month would mean the world to me because I'm literally paying for everything myself until I have this completed as a 501c4. This is all coming out of my own pocket. And that includes lobbyists and attorneys to make statements and all of the small pieces that come with putting together the website and registering with the IRS and all of those good things. Awareness is really important, even if it doesn't bring money in, even if it doesn't bring signatures in. The signatures on the petition, I think, are super important. But awareness is really important because if you talk to one person about this problem, did you know midwives are being eradicated? Did you know in our state we don't have the right to choose this? You don't know who the next person is that they're going to talk to. You don't know if they're going to talk to their neighbor who knows the mayor, who knows the, you know what I mean? So awareness is the most important piece of this for me right now. With awareness, it will build the board for the NATBR. It will bring in the funds. And in my opinion, God just kind of drops the right people in the right places for me. So the best thing everybody can do is talk about it, ask a lot of questions about it, form a coalition in their state, share the website, share the petition. And if anything public comes up in your area, do it. If there's birth freedom movements in your area, I'm really learning that these things happen because not enough people are raising money, raising their voices. Every senator in my state was fed a script about the bill that we're fighting. Oh, it doesn't affect the midwives. Hermine Hayes Klein told me otherwise. All right. So when I say like people need to be talking and they need to be making a little bit of a professional fuss, I don't mean like ugly signs and egging offices. I mean, like, call your senators if you don't like the bill that they're voting on. This has to go back to being a grassroots movement. It does. Behind it is the AMA. Behind every single state is the American Medical Association. In our state, they would not budge on collaborative arrangements with CNMs because they want to curb the amount of home births that people are allowed to do. So we have a mighty, mighty beast behind every single state working very hard to eradicate midwives and to monopolize maternal health care because it makes them so much money. It just makes them so much money. I frankly think they should be sued just like the American Academy of Pediatrics, the AMA, ACOG, ACNM. Come on in. I frankly, I think that they've pulled a fast one on everybody.
Yeah.
But that's why the public needs to talk about it a lot more. There is, I don't have it set up yet, but there is a I do not consent hotline. It's an emergency hotline for hospital people who are admitted to the hospital. If you call that hotline, if you're in a birth emergency, they will redirect it directly to me. So we are actually working on a hotline for informed consent emergencies, situations where, people have, I had one recently last week where they left the hospital discharged and CPS met them at their house and escorted them by police back to the hospital where they spent 7 hours interrogating them on their religious choices not to do the vitamin K and the PKU screening. Yeah. So I don't even know. People can support it by just talking about it, sharing it. That's the most important thing to me. And becoming a member would be great. Like, we have cool merch. I send out newsletters. If people want to be on the panel, you can apply to be on the panel. It's an advisory panel with a ton of professionals. I'm just building. I'm also open to ideas. People can just email me directly. Buy me coffee. I drink so much coffee. My best ideas come at 3 a.m. So yeah, I'm excited that people are finally taking notice, that this is, they started all these freedom initiatives. They started all these health initiatives, but they forgot midwives and everything that they could do. It's not just catching babies. The effect, the generational effect of 90,000 fewer primary cesareans. Oh my word.
Right.
Oh my word. I can't even.
I was just working on something yesterday, and I believe it was I'm trying to remember the demographic, but it's like, I think it was women over 35 or something like that. One of the reasons that their pregnancies make them high risk is because of the heightened cesarean rate. I think that was also the case for mothers of multiples or something like that. One of the reason that they're high risk is because they have a lot more C-sections. And I'm thinking, as if that's an accident. As if many of them are even given a choice. I mean, here in Montana, midwives are not allowed to attend multiple births, or twin births, plus births, at all. And in the entire state, as far as I'm aware, from what I've heard from other people calling around and trying to find support for their twin birth, if they call the hospitals, everybody points them to this one OB here in Western Montana, and he is not doesn't have a great reputation for being kind, compassionate, or even really giving people a real good shake at having that vaginal birth kind of thing. And, maybe there are other OBs here in Montana that I'm not hearing of or whatever. I'll leave room for error there for sure. But the C-section thing alone is just makes me laugh, dark humor, because it's ridiculous it's so preventable, C-sections alone. And the downstream effects of getting even one C-section. We've got all kinds of things that are very real, things to consider for subsequent pregnancies, subsequent births. And in lots of cases, maybe not so much here in Montana, but in lots of cases, definitely in other states, one C-section means you're always a C-section. And that's, that limits the number of children you can potentially have. That heightens your own, mental health, anxiety, stress around pregnancy all on its own. It's just, there's so many things. Just allowing for this opportunity of 900,000, you said 900,000 C-sections?
90,000.
Oh, 90,000. Well,
90,000 yes, a year, which I think would be like 5 million after 5 years. I would have to go back, but those numbers are nuts. And think about the babies, right? The amount of primal health periods that would be preserved. The breastfeeding rates would change.
Oh, yeah.
Their gut health. And their future gut health, like the overall, the ramifications are monumental. And it's almost like a duh moment, right?
Yeah.
Hello, I want to be like shake somebody like you forgot. Look how easy this almost could be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's funny. I'm so glad that you have Dr. Stu on in your ear on the advisory panel, because he is a powerhouse in his own right, for sure. And I listen to their podcast, Birthing Instincts podcast, religiously. And I remember, when Bobby got into office and Dr. Stu was going to the MAHA banquets and the things and trying to tap in there and say, hey, hello, McFly. we're missing something here. I was starting to lose hope, and again, I think that's part of this whole story, the major excitement that I feel about what you're doing. And because it's just phenomenal. I mean, we don't do what we do, you and I, in the birth world, just because it's, seemed like a neat thing. It was either be a secretary or, wrangle horses or do this. Oh, wrangling horses would be fun. But, I think I could venture to speak for both of us when I say that this is something that is profoundly important. Probably one of the most important aspects of human existence is the birth of the new generation, and what that does to the family unit, and what that does to us as women, men as fathers, there's the community as a whole. I mean, there's every layer of our human experience can be positively transformed, positively affected by a simple, good, positive birth experience. I mean, I know for myself, I had 4 unassisted births myself. All of my babies are unassisted births. And it's funny because I think for a while I felt like, unassisted birth, I'm a free birther. Here's my gold star, and it's pretty cool and all. But just in general, the empowered birth experience, whether it's with a midwife, I mean, even sometimes, hospital births can feel really empowering to people, when they are able to take that power for themselves, what is rightfully theirs as parents. It truly transforms people. I would not be the person I am today if it was not for my births, the way that my births went. I would not be the person at all that I am today. And there are times, even when I speak to my mother, my own mother, about my births, she will tear up, and sort of, it's a bittersweet thing to talk about for her, because she does not feel like her births with my sister and I were very empowered. There were lots of aspects to her experiences, her only 2 experiences, that I think with my trained eye, looking back, and sort of, with the limited information I have, but looking at her stories, I can see multiple points where it broke her down. Broke her down here, it broke her down here. This could have been a potential for her to rise up from the flames like a phoenix. And, we can use all these great, allegories and metaphors and things, but it really is true. It really, really is true that birth is I keep saying transformational, and I feel like it's been, that word's a little bit overused, but the difference between a caterpillar and a butterfly, truly.
The paramount moment. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So again, what you're doing, these things that you're creating, these things that God is creating through you, it is history in the making. Yeah, what you're doing is profound. There will be the ripple effect, the trickle down, all the raging river downstream effects of what this could create and do for in all of our society is just, the possibilities are infinite, and they are almost exclusively positive. That's the other thing that, in so many things that so much lobbying and, legislation and code and politics and whatever, there usually is a positive and a negative, and sometimes it's a little bit more this and sometimes a little more this, but very rarely is it like friggin' like this. And I feel like this is one of those moments where it's like, I can't see really a negative outcome for the true health of us as people. I could see a negative outcome for those who stand to gain from what is currently in place. And that's why it's going to be a battle for sure. But
the reason the model works, the reason the whole trickle down model works, and it just sort of fell into place like this, is because it it will work. You know,
Right.
it wasn't hard for me to put the structure together in my head. It works and makes sense because fixing this problem and recognizing midwifery again and integrating midwifery really would just fix all these problems. I mean, I heard recently that like one of the number one causes of death postpartum is for maternal deaths is postpartum depression and suicide.
Mm.
You know, imagine if we know anecdotally, I don't know about the evidence, anecdotally, we know that postpartum depression is directly linked to your experience, your perception of support.
Yep.
Imagine how different that would look if 40 or 50% of all those low risk women chose out of hospital birth, right? Like
Right.
I can't even put those numbers onto something so I can quantify how many women would not have devastating postpartum psychosis, but the numbers are probably legit. Right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the reason the framework works and it makes sense is because that is the model. That is the model of physiological maternal health care, women-centered, community-centered care. That is the model. You know, I didn't have
Right.
to like jump through hoops. That's why it doesn't seem like there's not a lot of bad problems and a perception of bad outcomes like that, because it's supposed to work this way. You know,
Right.
it's almost like we just needed to uncover it, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm so excited to what's next. What else is going to happen from this? I have no idea. I have no idea. Some days I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing, guys. But it works. It's
I'm just
working.
winging
It's
it.
working.
Yeah, it is
It's
working.
absolutely working beautifully. So everybody could go to the website and just share it and learn things. I'm putting up so much information every day. At some point, hopefully really soon, there'll be information up there for people to share. You
Oh,
know,
good.
stuff
Yep.
to share on. I actually, personally, I've always done a lot of heavy advocating. I'm the kind of person that I have to be escorted around the local hospitals by security, not because I'm aggressive. I swear to God. But I do a lot of informed consent documents, informed refusal documents. So we will have more information up there for people to share when it comes to informed refusals and exercising and protecting your religious freedoms and your parental freedoms and your freedoms in birth. So the website, natvr.org, is a good place for people to just get started, hang out, share it. And shoot me emails. I'm an open book. I got 10 kids, but I always have time for an email and to chat a little bit about this initiative, because the more people that want to do things, the better. So far, it's like a one-man show.
Yeah. Hopefully the right people, I mean, I believe that they will. The right people will line
Yes,
up
I know it.
to support you to join this team, so it doesn't have to be a one woman show so much. But if it does, it kind of sounds like you've got a team of angels working
I
with you
do.
as well.
So good.
For sure, it sounds like a bit. It's giving, to use Gen Z language. It's giving David and Goliath.
It totally
So
is, isn't it? I love
it
it.
is.
It
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
is.
So I'm not Gen
No
Z, but I
fear.
think I use that correctly. But yeah, no, it really does feel that way. It feels like I don't want to overly, I can definitely get a little feisty about the medical system and all that kind of stuff, but it's much more of a comment on the system in place and much less of a comment on the people within it. Are there
Yeah.
predators? Everywhere. There are, in any field, you're going to find opportunists, you're going to find predators. There's going to be bad people in every kind of place. But the people that are in the system, my belief now is that we've got a lot more people trapped in that system
Yeah.
than we do, bad actors who like to inflict pain on on others. It really is much more of a people go into the field. I think it's Dr. Stu that says this a lot too, that nobody becomes a doctor because they want to harm families or
Yeah.
cause trouble for babies and mothers and stuff like that. They go into this field because they want to help, they want to do good things. Is there a money aspect to it? I'm sure somewhere down the line somebody's considering their income and all of that, but I think it's a lot more of what the heart behind it was, and I think the system is really good at beating people down, beating people into submission, and uh and and snapping them back into place if they start sticking their head out a little too far to see what else is out there. And I think that that's what's been created with the monopoly. It's more than just a good money making machine. I think it kind of has a monopoly on keeping everybody in line,
Yeah.
putting the horse blinders on, and making sure nobody questions the authority and all that kind of stuff. And that's another aspect of what you're doing that I think will be really beneficial to people that are in the hospital systems. I think it'll be a huge opportunity for healing of their nervous systems and their ability to actually care for people and not feel like they have to leave their humanity at the door to clock in for work and stuff like that. I think, we kind of are beating a dead horse about this, but it just, it, the, the possibilities are endless. It's monumental what you're doing, what's going on here. I want everybody to keep a very close eye on you and this work on I've been calling it Nat BR, but I love what you
It
said that
looks like the word natural birth, doesn't it?
yeah, that's what when you said that I'm like, "Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love that." No,
That
that's
came to me
perfect.
like in the middle of the night. That's what I mean. We're just winging it over here.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's the angels whispering to you that
Yes,
like God
yes.
said this would be a really great
Yep.
name.
This
So,
whole thing underneath the theme for me is really principalities and powers, because you're right. We're not dealing with flesh and blood. Those physicians are people.
right.
We had an experience up here where a physician was presented with an emergency breech delivery, and they were scared out of their
Yeah.
riches, I guess you
Yeah.
can say, because the insurance company dominates how they
Yeah.
perform. Can you imagine that poor resident, who did not and was not prepared for this?
Right.
So those people are people. They are still should be our allies.
Right.
And we should there is room for pluralistic maternity care, meaning everybody has a place here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Insurance monopolizing the hospitals and what they're allowed to do is what I'm hoping will kind of have to fall apart once that framework isn't the standard anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Please God. Please God.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had a list of questions here, but I think we covered so much good stuff.
I'm so
And,
sorry. I
and I'm
do that
sure
all the time.
no, I mean it was great. No, I loved hearing all of the stream of consciousness because it's brilliance. I can see where your mind's going and obviously where it's been and yeah, there's just such amazing stuff that you're doing. I think you probably answered all the questions anyway in there. We talked it was a good conversation and I think we tapped on the most important stuff anyway.
Awesome.
So I don't want to take up more of your time. I know it's late over there. But I really, really appreciate you letting me capture your brilliant mind and capture this for my listeners and audience and all of that.
I'm so honored. Thank you.
Yeah, and I hope, as things develop, I would love if we could, and maybe it'll be more like I'm just delivering the news, but I'm definitely going to be keeping tabs on all of this. I want to be involved. I think I filled out your thing to
Yeah,
create
you did.
coalition. Yeah, here in Montana, I'd love to be a part of that, and I think it's brilliant. I think we don't have to give up on this great country. And we don't have to give up on the legislation. We don't have to give up on making it work in every aspect of our existence. And it's a huge relief, and again gives me lots of hope to know that I can kind of poke my head out from the underground and look around and see some butterflies flying and some birds singing.
Hopefully
and
soon. Hopefully
some
soon.
of that. Yes, yeah, it's not happening yet, but I can see it. I can envision it for sure. So again, thanks for being on. It was such a pleasure talking to you, and I'll have all of your contact information in the show notes and all of that so people can
Thank
reach
you.
out. And definitely your Substack is another great way to keep track of
That's
you
right.
too, because
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love the articles you write there. And
Thank you.
yeah, so you're very active. I appreciate you keeping us all in the know of what's going on, what's on your heart, and all that good stuff. And
I'm so
yeah,
honored. Thank you so much.
yeah, thanks for being here. Hey everyone, this is Future Haya coming back to redo my outro so that I can emphasize the value of donating or becoming a member of the NATBR, the NatBR, the National Alliance for Traditional Birth Rights, and supporting Abby in everything that she's doing. All of this stuff, whether we like it or not, costs money. And so moving this whole cause forward is going to require money. And right now, as Abby said in the interview, she's fronting all the costs. So if you believe in what she's doing and you want to support everything that this could mean for the future of families in this country, please consider donating or become a member. And that way you'll get the privileges that go along with becoming a member of the NATBR and all of that good stuff. You can go again to natbr.org. All the websites and everything are in the show notes. But I just wanted to come in here and make sure that you considered it. You were given the opportunity to consider giving towards this, contributing, becoming a real supporting part of this cause. So, with that said, I hope in general this was very informative, very exciting for all the birth nerds and future parents or current parents out there, because it definitely feels that way for me. Feel free to share your input in the comments below and try to keep things civilized as always. Remember, we can only do our best with the tools that we have. And with that, bye-bye for now. Did you know I have a newsletter? If you want to hear about upcoming cohorts, programs, or event updates, and have everything delivered straight to your inbox, head over to my website, earthboundparenting.org, and sign up for the newsletter at the bottom of the page. I only send emails when I have something to share, and often send a little personal note at the end of the news breakdown. So again, if you want to hear from me on the regular, sign up for my newsletter and stay in touch. Intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this video is medical or legal advice. By engaging with this content, you agree to take full responsibility for your own experiences and decisions as a result. Everything on this channel is property of Prudence Ministries, a private healing association, unless otherwise stated. Blessed is Adonai, divine sovereign, who brought us to this place and this time for this purpose.